About you transforming your family in such a phenomenal way. Your children attended Ivy League schools in the US. How did you accomplish this in one generation? Would you like to tell us that?
Yes, so I have two boys. The older one is Nicholas. He's 30 now, and my younger son is Yannick. He's 28. So both of my boys were born in Austria. My ex-wife is from Austria. What happened actually, I went from my junior year in college, I went to Austria to work for the summer. And when I went to the American embassy at the end of the summer of 89, they rejected my visa application to go back to university. So I was stuck in Austria for 6 years, didn't have a job, didn't have a place to live.
Wow.
And then I ended up getting to know this lady, my ex-wife.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then she and I became close. And then wasn't necessarily planned, but we had Nicholas, and then we have Yannick. We got married, and then I said to her, "Hey, listen, no matter what happens, we have to go back to America for me to finish my education, because otherwise we don't stand a chance to raise these children and give them a better chance of life. I don't want them to have the struggle like I did without the education." Anyway, she agreed. We moved back to America, back to Vegas. Nicholas was 2 when Yannick was 4 months. But I don't know whether you can imagine what it's like to go across the world with two children. One was with 4 months and 2 years. It was an absolute nightmare in terms of resources. We didn't have money. When the boys were 4 and 6, I decided that I was gonna teach them how to play tennis, and the ultimate goal was to use their academic and athletic ability to get to the best universities that America has to offer. So it started for 1 year. I think they were like in second or third grade, and we homeschooled them for 1 year because I wanted to teach them, good mechanics, good technique. So after that, we send them back to school. So my ex-wife will drop them off at school, and I'll pick them up after school, and I went to train with them. So in grad school, I studied marriage and family counseling first. And then I realized before I graduated that I wouldn't have a lot of time with them because I would have to work until 5, 6 at night. So I changed to educational psychology, which then allows me to be a counselor. So being a counselor, that means I will be working in the same school system as the school that they were attending. So I'll pick them up from school and I will go and practice. Beginning, of course, they were young, was an hour, hour and a half. It increased. It became 2 hours, 2.5 hours. As they get older, I started put them in tournaments. We travel, around the country, California, everywhere there were tournaments. I hired a coach for them. I'm sorry, a fitness trainer for them. They would go to a trainer twice a week after they had the tennis. They did not have a lot of free luxury time because most of the time in America, parents sometimes they allow their own the children to make a choice about what they want to play. In this family, unfortunately, I was a little bit very rigid. We were not very close when they were 13 and 14 because their friends were doing something different. And I always stressed to them that this whole thing was basically for them to access the best university in the world. So as they got older, they saw other kids that were with them getting recruited and get to these schools. I do want to add another part there that my ex-wife very very instrumental in terms of the academic side because she didn't have a work permit at the time to work in America, which was fine because she actually was taking care of the kids. I was working 2 jobs, running around, but she spent a lot of time doing memory games with the kids, doing math, science with them. So when they get older in school, vocabulary, they were very good in math and science. It's because of all the work she put in to prepare for them. She grew up like that in Europe. You know what it's like for us growing up in a township, both parents are illiterate, couldn't read and write. That's why most of these Black low-income kids are 2, 3 levels behind in school academic because we don't read. I didn't get to write until I was actually in school. I never read a book until I was actually at university because there was no library in my school. So I do want to illustrate that this whole even was with tennis, that my ex-wife played an crucial role in getting them prepared academically. So the time to be recruited came, and my older son got recruited at Harvard University. He was fortunate enough to pay only $12,000, only $2,000 a year to go to Harvard. He was the only child in Clark County School District in the state of Nevada that got accepted in Harvard in 2012. He's an incredible hard worker. I think those are the genes from his mother's side, not from me. But anyway, he's very, very focused. He graduated in 2016. He's a software engineer in San Francisco. And then Yannick, my younger one, went to Georgetown. Yannick was not sure what he wants to study. He's not as hardworking. He likes to have more fun, which I think is very normal because we know there's no reason we shouldn't be comparing the kids. Even he struggled, and I said to him, hey, just find a degree. Georgetown is a good school with a good reputation. Eventually, he graduated, and then he did some courses, and he started his own finance company. So he's an investor. He invests my 401k now.
Wow.
And he talks about stock, and I have no idea what he's talking about, explaining all the stock and all the stuff. But that is how this whole coming from the township to the Ivy League in one generation happened. It was not easy. And sometimes people hear this story and they just hear the flowery stuff. It was very difficult. The boys didn't speak to me most of the time when we traveled to tournaments, because they were mad that they were supposed to be with their friends. All what they talked to me about when we drove was, can we stop to go to the bathroom or get something to eat?
Wow.
But we were very fortunate. They were very good, decent tennis players for college level, and I never had any crazy ideas about them playing beyond college tennis because I know the difference in terms of how difficult it is. I was lucky in 1992 to be a hitting partner for a guy called Hoskov from Austria. He was number 18 in the world in 1985. So I was not going to put my children through that story. But one last thing I want to mention.
Yes.
Emotionally, I still feel very, very guilty about having pushed the boys so much. And sometimes I use terrible language because I was mad, I was angry. And this was part also when we were going through a divorce. But so life is full of these horrible experiences, and somehow we've got to find ways to humble ourselves and try and bring. But I feel fortunate that for my family, my boys basically got the education. I don't have to worry about them now. What life is going to be like for them.
Richmond, thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. Life is about pain, it's about sorrow, and it's about
Yeah.
our joys. And through the journey you've been through, it has not been straightforward. However, they were your constant joy. And thank you for being so real, because that's what this show is all about. It's about real people talking about life, and you just did that. You affirmed that by just being yourself and telling your truth. And even though you've gone through that, I don't think there are many people in the world who haven't actually experienced that, because life can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
And you had those moments with them. However, here they are. They are shining in the world, and they will have their moments too, but they will always know that you are there and they can reach out to you. And you sound like a warm, caring, loving father. You do. And I'm sure, kids and their children, my family, we are four siblings, and I'm the only girl. There are three brothers. So you can
Wow.
you can imagine what my life was like.
I feel sorry for you.
So, thank you for that. So the thing is, we each have had a different experience in our home. It happens with siblings. You
Yes.
know, we were with friends not too long ago, and we're discussing the same thing, my husband and myself. We may all share the womb, and we may come out, at different times in our family's history. But the important thing to understand, realize, and even encapsulate into our lives is that every human being, even if you are from the same family, you have a different story to tell. Live your
Yes.
story. Whether it's painful, whether it's full of sorrow, or if it's, some people have a knack, they can turn sorrow into joy. And I think that's the human success. When we can do that, we can be
Yes.
successful. Because I don't believe that anybody's life has not had a hiccup or two. So therefore, good on you
Yeah.
going through that, and also your
Thank
ex-wife
you.
for bringing two beautiful children into this world, and just releasing them to be who they were meant to be. And for yourself, for just reaching this part of the journey, I just think it's amazing. And that you hear, it's definitely a sense of purpose. So let's talk about your passion for tennis. You did tell me earlier how it started. Can we just reiterate a little on that?
In Monville, there's the area they call Eringin. This is where just my house was just up the street. This is the time where my father had just passed away. And there was a tennis court there, and I used to sit down there and watch the guys play. They were playing barefoot just for fun, basically. And I basically became a ball boy by default because they would hit the ball over the fence, and automatically, if you're sitting there watching, you become the ball boy. One afternoon, two guys came, Benson Dusi I was talking about. He's the guy basically who's responsible for this story. And another guy called Tobias Mavunda. They were a little bit older than me. And they had these nice, beautiful white outfits. They were playing back and forth. For the first time, I saw somebody hit the ball more than 5, 6 times without missing in a net or anywhere else. The sound of the ball basically was just absolutely fascinating. And then I just thought, I want to do that. And then Benson, to fast forward, is the guy that recruited me. He took me to this place called Ewema. There was a group of black men there, actually black people, I should say, but mostly were men. They were playing league against each other. Those days, we still have the two tennis associations in South Africa, which one was called TASA, which was composed of Indian, blacks, and coloreds, and then the other one was the White Association, and we did not play in the same tournaments. So they had tournaments among each other. These men and women basically are the ones who basically embraced me. They for the first time I saw what a black educated man behaves like. He talks like, how he dresses. They were reinforcing education to their children, and basically they took me under their wing, where a lot of them played with me because I think they felt sorry. I was horrible at the time. I couldn't play, but Benson is the guy that spent most of the time with me. And then one day there was a gentleman, a white guy called Tim Gray, that showed up at this club. He was going to give somebody a lesson who was going to go overseas, a young girl from Lamontville. And he saw me play against the wall barefoot because the shoes I had, they had holes already. So sometimes us from the township, we have shoes, and at some stage you have to take the socks off because they've developed holes, and you don't want to have holes on your socks with your mom will get mad at you. So you play with them without any socks. The holes get bigger, so eventually you get rid of the shoes because now you play barefoot. So this white gentleman, Tim Gray, comes and he sees me playing, and then he came and introduced himself. To fast forward to your story, he ends up recruiting me and eventually with Benson, saying, hey, you can come to K-Star Hotel, and I teach a group of white children there on Saturday morning. You can pick up balls for me for an hour or two, and when we're done, I'll give you half an hour lesson. And I committed to that half an hour lesson for 2 years without missing one day, because I just could not imagine missing the opportunity of getting any lesson from a professional tennis coach. After 2 years, Mr. Gray was going to leave South Africa, Durban, go to Pietermaritzburg and open a health farm. And he went to Mitchell Park Tennis Club. At Mitchell Park Tennis Club is at the end of Musgrave Road. And again, I mentioned we had these two tennis organizations, and he went, this was actually a white club, if I may say that. And the gentleman there, I think, was the president of the club. His name is Trevor Hall. And he asked for a special permission for me and Benson to become members there. So we actually were allowed to play there on Saturdays, on weekends. That's why I said my story is basically was constructed by all people of South Africa, white, blacks, Indian, and everybody. People were so very kind. Now, mind you, during apartheid, to go to a white club as a black kid who's like 13, 14, my English was not good at the time, but these people were very kind. Those were the first white people I had a social interaction with. The only social interaction with I'd had with people, or seen, I should say, were the police in the township with machine guns and canine dogs and all this stuff. But interacting with these people, playing tennis with them. I was obviously very nervous, feeling insecure, because that's what, when people feel are discriminated, feel like you're supposed to be insecure. But a lot of them, it became like, I want to say friends, but they were adults. I was young, and some of them started arranging for their kids to play with me after school, even during the week, like the family Fitzwilliams, their family, their son. I don't. I'm sorry if I lost the name there. But I play with the son in the afternoon, and then the Ferreira family. They had Clinton, their older son. He started playing with me in the afternoons, which has actually helped my tennis improved a lot. So that's how my tennis here in South Africa. So in our junior tournaments in South Africa, there was not a lot of black kids from the who were black who had won some of the junior tournaments, in TASA. So I was lucky enough to have a couple of wins along the way in 12s, 14, and 18s. But one other thing I wanted to mention, when I was 19, I got invited to a fitness competition, which was sponsored by Ijuba Breweries. It was called Ijuba Superstar. And they invited all these prominent athletes, and I was the last one to get a phone call, because they said, we don't even know if tennis players will have a stamina to sustain this level of fitness. They had a guy called A. Simnin, who played for Morocco Swallows. They have Solomon Zuma, a boxer. So I get his phone call, and the guy says to me, we're just wondering if you'd be interested, because we're supposed to invite all the sport people. I'm like, well, I think I would like to. It was the first time I ever slept in a hotel. I got free food and free clothes. I was excited, like you cannot believe. And my sisters told me, you shouldn't go. You're going to embarrass our family, with all these permanent people. But to end on the story on that note, I won a Ford Escort in that fitness competition. I didn't even have a driver's license. So at the end of the day, this is a story that young people need to believe. Trying is not a bad thing. There's a good chance you can fail, but and winning sometimes helps a little bit to get the self-belief. So my tennis had also that of this fitness level. The people at Mitchell Park, the people at Wema, a man in my life sponsored me to go and work for him in Austria, teach tennis, which is where I met another a guy from Canada called Norman Moores, who called the coach at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, introduced me, and I got recruited to play college tennis in 1986. And that's my short snip of my tennis career.
Well, thank you for that. That was very interesting. And it sounds almost like a miracle, winning the car.
It's
And
absolutely crazy. It's a crazy
but
story.
these are the things that opens a door, and it's hard to really explain it to people. It has to
Yeah.
happen to you. And then once that door is open, you don't own your life anymore. It's going in another direction. I'm sure that's what happened to you.
Yeah, I tell you, I actually we were talking about earlier before we came live here that I actually don't feel I belong anywhere. I'm not regretful. It's very lonely sometimes because I don't fit in a lot of places. When I say I don't fit, it means I talk to people. I go and play tennis with people in between. I go to work. We friendly talk to people. But outside of that, my life is just me. Since my kids are grown and gone. But I come home, these things happen. I go to places, I go and talk. It's fantastic. So at the end of the day, I'm so grateful to have an opportunity to empower young people. I don't care about money. It doesn't really have any meaning for me. I just needed to pay bills and be alive. So if one day, tomorrow, I die, I'll be a happy man, because if I had a chance just to empower a few young kids that are struggling, whatever the reason may be, for them to believe that, hey, things are bad now, but I'm gonna wake up one day and be 18. I need to do something. I can be successful. This guy from Lamontville got these things done, and he didn't really have much. I think I could do it too. My job's done. It's
Wonderful.
That would be
Wonderful.
the most wonderful, rewarding experience I could ask for.
A history maker. You actually living out your legacy. Marvelous. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this wonderful teaching, you may call it, in your book, the 9-step model. let's have a quick run through. Yes, let's talk about your book. Show people the book. And I was just about to make my Amazon purchase just before the show. Of course, I couldn't. I'll complete my purchase after the show. So I
Well,
will have.
we want to give you a book. We got a copy here for you. We can't have you be buying this book. I mean, hello.
Oh, wow. Do you have a signed copy for me? That's
We'll have to
wonderful.
sign the copy. We're going to figure out how to get it to you.
Oh, that's not a problem. I'm seeing Linda Mbanambi. We
Oh,
see
okay.
we're all meeting soon in Cape Town,
Oh,
so
fantastic.
he can bring it to me. There,
Fantastic.
before you tell us about the 9 steps, I actually have a special message for you. Someone in Australia, in Melbourne, Australia, sent you a very special message and
Hello.
she wants to connect with you because she's an academic. She's wrote she's written a couple of books herself, but as an academic, so she's published papers, and she's my childhood friend actually. So
Oh,
here's
wow.
yeah, and she's also from this lovely town, Merebank. Merebank produce
Oh,
all of interesting people. And so her name is Dr. Pearl Subin. So Dr. Pearl Subin is a professor at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. And so she is a social justice researcher and, of course, like yourself, a former South African. And well, she will be connecting with you about your story and about your book. That's my gift to you because
thank
I
you.
generally try to give each guest a gift. That's how I do it. So my
Thank you
gift
so much.
is the Connect with Dr. Pearl Subin in Melbourne, Australia. I think that this story and what she's doing, because she's very international as well. She's just come back from Indonesia and it was a university trip. So I think she would love to incorporate this even with her teaching to the students because she focuses heavily on diversity. So that's
It
my
would be
gift.
it would be an honor. You know, one of the things I've struggled to have to add to a story is my goal is to try and get especially this book into the schools through the Department of Education, whether in South Africa or in the low income areas. Because, like for example, growing up, I never read any books written by anybody who looks like me. The other books were fine. Some of them I didn't know what they were talking about. We read Shakespeare, fine, very eloquent. I don't know how many kids from South Africa who read Shakespeare have actually had a chance to go to England. But of course, it's great. It's great diction, great language, great plays. However, I want to do my best I can to conduct a lot of academics, give them a chance to read this book. I can also send them a PDF copy if somebody was interested to read if they can be instrumental in trying to get into the schools where we could do these prints and the schools and use the teaching. In fact, in South Africa, here somebody suggested I should try and have this translated into Zulu for the younger kids in the schools, and I think it's a good idea. But it'd be an honor to connect with the professor and see if they can use the story. It'll be an honor. I'll be grateful.
Well, I will make that connect for you and for Pearl after the show. And well, that's what this is all about. Grow it. Because we
Yeah.
don't know how long we have here on this planet and how long our time is, but let's leave some history behind. Let's leave some
Yeah.
legacy. So go ahead and talk about your 9 steps.
So the 9 step basically, how the 9 steps came about was I basically went back and reread my autobiography, The Zulu Dreams, from apartheid to the Ivy League. And I wanted to see certain things that propel the stories to be successful. And this is how I came about with the steps. So the first steps in my book is believe in yourself, which basically I say when you wake up in the morning and you stand in front of a mirror, I want this sense of people to believe that the person they see in front of them, that this person is got a realistic chance to be successful in life. That this person, they believe that this person can achieve great things in life. And nowadays, obviously, a lot of our young people are on social media. They feel more empowerment when they post something and then somebody else has to like it first before they believe that this is something good. I was very lucky as a young boy that I always somehow believed that I could achieve things, I could do things, even if I failed. I didn't have as much fear not to try things because I think I'll fail. So this idea of believing in yourself, I think it's imperative for us to be able to reach any success. When I started coaching my kids, I'd coached tennis, but I hadn't really coached anybody close to me or to achieve anything, because people I coached, they came and went, juniors. I didn't really have any control of the schedule. But even though I'd failed in my life, but I always believed from the beginning that I could coach my kids to accomplish something good. They could make it to the college teams, play Division I tennis. And fortunately, they did work for my family. And the second step in my book is patience. When I look at my life, quick example about patience, it took me 24 years to acquire a US citizenship, including being sometimes have to leave the country within 5 days because the visa was going to run out, and you don't want to stay in America and overrun your visa because then the repercussions are terrible. So it took a long time going through these visa, different requirements, different types of visas. And patience does not have, being patient, that means that during whatever you're trying to do, things are going to go wrong. Sometimes they go right. We have up and downs, high and lows, which I think tennis fits very well in that narrative, because tennis things are just going up and down. You win 3 points, you win a game, and then you lose 3, 4 games. You have to keep making adjustments. So the patience, I find, was very important. And as I mentioned before, that I went to Austria to work over the summer in my junior year, and I couldn't come back for 6 years because my visa was denied. A lot of people could have easily given up and basically make an excuse that, well, I didn't finish my degree because the American embassy did not accept my visa, and they quit. The people at the US embassy, they're just doing their job, and I didn't have the right criteria. They were not supposed to give me a visa. I don't blame it on them. I put it on me. So I wanted to be patient. The idea behind commitment, based on my story, which I think also works for a lot of people who are successful, is that if you choose you want to do something, success takes a long time, which means you have to be willing to commit a certain amount of time. Basically, if you work hard at something, invest time, there's a good chance you're going to be successful. But that also means you're going to have to sacrifice and commit a certain amount of time of your life. Sometimes it's 10 years you could make the commitment. So in my situation, with all these things happening in my life, that with visa problems and the traveling issues and poverty and all that stuff, I knew that I needed to commit as much as I can to my education to be able to acquire my undergrad, able to go to graduate school. And I believe that that commitment was going to actually be rewarded at the end of the day. The Tim Gray's lessons, half an hour every Saturday. I committed to the 2 years of training. They will go and pick up these balls for him, playing with the kids. And at the end of their lesson, I'll get a half an hour lesson. I committed to go to Mitchell Park. My children, I train with them every single day, Monday through Saturday, without missing, unless somebody was sick. And then we went to tournaments. They went to a trainer twice a week. They had their fitness, went home, did their homework, went to bed. It was very, very rigid schedule. But the results basically will show when you commit to doing something. Practice makes perfect, and this is in every culture. And you need commitment to be able to do that. And then step number 4 in my book here is failure. That failure is not the end of the world. In fact, I see failure as an opportunity to reflect back and see, you did it this time, the first time you were not successful, so you can go back and do the other way. But also, I think failure is actually a good thing, because so often we think we're so good, we think we can do certain things, and then when we fail, and then people are completely thrown off the boat. Sometimes they become more a psychological thing where it becomes they go through depression. So failing, you may struggle now, it doesn't mean that you're failing. And if you do fail at some stage, that's okay. Keep trying. Another quick example of failure. I finished school. You are allowed to work for 3 years in the Clark County School District. And then within the 3 years, you have to take this national exam called the praxis. You have to pass this test to get a permanent test. Based on my English not being my first language, I read very slowly. A lot of times I take too long. I failed the test 7 times. So the example of failure that we should not see as the end of the world. After finishing graduate school, you are allowed to work for, you can apply for a partial license, work for 3 years for the Clark County School District. After these 3 years, I mean, within the 3 years, I'm sorry, you have to pass this test called the praxis. And I took this test 7 to 8 times and failed it every time. And the reason was my English I may be fluent in speaking, but in terms of reading, based on, again, of my upbringing or not having people read to me when I was a kid or my parents read to me, I'm pretty illiterate in a lot of ways. So I don't read as fast. I kind of count words and look, and then, but so I couldn't finish the test. So eventually, the Clark County School District fired me. I lost my job, my accounting job, because I couldn't pass the test on time. I didn't think this was a Clark County School District as mistake. I could have people complain and say, yeah, it's racism because it's written for people who have well-educated, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted a job. So I kept on taking the test. I found a lady who helped me, who was my tutor. And after 2 years, I did pass the test. Even after the 2 years, I was not hired for more years. I don't know why. I kept on applying, but I wanted that job back. So I applied again and again. And then after 5 years being out, I got my job back. So failure is not the end of the world, because that's an example there that you can keep trying and find your success. And my next step is resiliency, which is one of my favorite ones, which basically I always say, you want to develop that thick skin. I keep bringing back the story of my father, having suffered the pain. When I was 16, after playing tennis, after I started playing tennis, we started playing tournaments. We went to Cape Town. And in Cape Town at this tournament, which, by the way, in 16s, I happened to win, I ran into a young colored girl called Renee. I won't say the last name. But so she and I became friends. This just crush for young people. Yes. We never even kissed, but we liked each other. It was just the first serious thing. So I came back to Durban. We exchanged addresses. We just recently got a phone in my house. So she and I, we started writing to each other. She'll call 1 week, I would call the following week. And then one day it was her turn to call. She didn't call. And I thought, oh my God, I wonder what happened. Okay, quiet. That day in the evening, the phone rings and her father is on the phone. And he's really angry. And he says, this is Renee's father. I just want to tell you that you should never contact my daughter again, because she's got more important things to do. And if you're looking for a girlfriend, you should look into your own kind. And if you do contact my daughter again, we'll contact the police and report you for harassment. I'm 16 and I don't even know I don't even know what this means. Yeah. So, you can imagine how you crushed at 16 years old. So, okay, so I don't talk to Renee. Between the letters we'd written, I had a photo that I'd sent to Renee of myself laying there next to the park, thinking I'm cool, Anyway, mom, a week later, I get a letter from this family. Her mom had taken this picture and cut it into tiny little pieces. Wow. And put it in an envelope and send it to me. And she said, if you look at your girlfriend, look into your own kind. Wow. So how has the story helped me get stronger? Because, you think, oh my God, what is wrong with these people? But anyway, years later, when I was in Austria, after I met my girlfriend, my ex-wife, her parents disowned her because she was dating me, being Black. When she got pregnant with our first son, they told her that they'd be embarrassed to walk with our children in the streets because because of being black. We're gonna embarrass them in front of the neighbors. So the point I'm trying to make is that experience from Renee's parents, when this also happened with my ex-wife's parents, there was a walk in the park. This is where the resiliency happens, because you have these experiences, and they actually work for you if you embrace them in the right way and don't think. I mean, in my own little tiny arrogance, of growing up in a township, being a tennis player, I basically just felt like, it's their loss. I mean, losing the friendship, it was fine. But that's where the step of me of resiliency comes into play. And I feel fortunate to have had these horrible experiences, because I think they basically helped me to be a better person, to be a stronger person. My next step, and I'm going to hurry up, is mental toughness. So the step number 6 in my book here is mental toughness. And the best example I could find for mental toughness is the story of our legendary Mr. Nelson Mandela. Because when Mr. Mandela basically confronted the apartheid government and said, we want to treat it as equal, one man, one vote, and he knew that he could be killed. He knew that he could be thrown in prison, which he was. He knew he could be killed by hanging, shot, or whatever. He knew he was going to leave his family behind, abandon his family, be in jail. He knew he would go through solitary confinement. They'll ask the man to dig up a 6-foot hole. It will take him all day. And at the end of the day, they'll ask him to close the hole. He knew this stuff was going to happen to him. Freezing cold in winter, they'll give him a tiny little blanket to cover himself. But he still pursued his objective because he had a goal. He thought it was important. Here is the man against all odds. International community was not supportive. Some of them were, but most of them were not. They called him a terrorist. So, but he was willing to do whatever it took to be able to achieve his goal. When I was going through my divorce with my ex-wife, with all the problems we were having, I basically sat down and I thought, I may think my problems are difficult, it's terrible, and feel sorry for myself. But the reality is, this is just how life happens. People who have come before me, like Mr. Mandela, like Biko, like a lot of other people, they have gone through hell to achieve their goals. So compared to what I was going through, it was not even close to what these people went through. People like Rosa Parks in America getting in front of a bus. Getting in a bus and sitting in the front seat when black people weren't allowed, knowingly that she could be arrested and charged. Yet she basically still went. She went forward with sitting in the back of the bus, in the front of the bus, knowingly she could be arrested and be charged and all that stuff. So there's a lot of people. This is just how life is. So this mental toughness, I think it's something that we need to do, but realistically, it doesn't just happen. You got to go out and do things. The fact is, people who've never lost a family member in their families until they're grown adults, when this stuff happens for the first time, it's devastating because they've never had a loss. They've never maybe even lost a puppy. So this idea of mental toughness, I think it's important for us to be able to achieve certain things we want to achieve. We get stronger. The next step there is flexibility. Flexibility, basically, mostly I target this to young people studying, that it's okay for you to actually not know what you want to study because you're experimenting. Don't go into university and just lock yourself down like a horse and put blinders on. And the horse, the owner of the horse, they put these blinders on because they don't want them distracted by something coming from behind or on the side or wherever. They just want to go from point A to point B. We're not horses. We are human beings. It's okay for us to make mistakes. If you go to university and you want to enroll into something because maybe your parents they're forcing you since they're paying, it's okay also to keep an open mind that things may change because 2 years later, you're going to change. The study that you thought was something that you wanted to do, you get then realize this is terrible. I don't think I want to do this. And a silly example is Mark Zuckerberg, who goes to Harvard University and he studies computer science. And he did not graduate because he started Facebook. But how did that come about? He was out with his friends and people experimenting, exchanging ideas, and then he eventually stumbled to the idea of Facebook, and he decided that he's gonna, I mean, I don't want to use the word drop out, because Mark Zuckerberg, you associate Mark Zuckerberg and dropping out, not a good idea. But anyway, the idea of flexibility is that, and if you realistically, American universities, people change their major 2 to 3 times before they graduate, because a lot of things change along the way. As I said, they change, the studies change, the world looks a bit different. And sometimes people enroll into universities, into certain subjects because their friends are doing it, or their parents want them to do it. So I think the flexibility is extremely important for us to realize that I could experiment a little bit with this. We're not allowing young people to make mistakes. They need to get out of high school, study this degree so they can start making money. And then halfway through, they have no idea, they don't have any passion or what they're doing. And then they're stuck in these jobs where they could also be flexible and do something else. That's where this stuff is based on. And the next step is luck. The luck step, obviously, I think you create your own luck, because we don't know who's going to be lucky and who is not, and why. So I encourage people to go out and do positive things. And here is my silly example about luck. As a little boy, after school, I went to Wema to play tennis. I hit against the wall. Nobody's there. It's me. I'm waiting for this gentleman to come in the afternoon. Benson was there, not there that day. I'm hitting the ball against the wall. Here's a white gentleman, comes behind me, and he introduces himself. This is the man who actually gave me free lessons, who opened doors for me. That's luck. At Mitchell Park, this white man, Ray Schwegman, showed up. He was on vacation in South Africa. He didn't even belong to Mitchell Park. He belonged to Bria Tennis Club. He came to Mitchell Park, heard my story. He sponsored me eventually to go to Europe. When I was in Austria, I am playing at the camp. Mark my words, we never played with anybody. It doesn't matter how good they were without them paying for a lesson. That one day, this guy comes and he's looking for somebody to play with. And I'm like, I'll play with you. His name was from Canada. We play. At the end of the day, he says, you're so young to be playing tennis. I mean, to be coaching tennis full time. Why don't you go to America and try and get a scholarship? And I say, well, I've been writing. I have not been fortunate enough. Picks up the phone. He calls the coach in Vegas. To fast forward the story, I get recruited. And that's how I went to America, from a total stranger. So, you know, this idea of luck is pretty incredible. And a tiny little example of that, the luck. 1994, I'm living in Vienna. There's the ATP Tour tennis tournament. My son is 6 months, Nicholas, 6 months old. I take him and my wife at the time to watch the ATP Tour. I still have a couple of South African guys I knew, like Ellis Ferreira, who were playing on a tour that from Mitchell Park that I knew. So they'll get me tickets.
Okay.
I get into the players' lounge with the ticket, and Andre Agassi is playing in the tournament. I knew Andre Agassi from Vegas because his younger sister played in our tennis team, Tammy, and she dated my roommate. So I go and introduce myself and I say, hey, you know, he used to come and play with our number 1 player called Scott Warner. He was better than most of us. He was 12, 13 at the time. And then I say, hey, you know, I grew up, I mean, I played college in Vegas, and your sister is a good friend of mine. And he said, oh yeah, we take pictures and everything is fine. So he plays the tournament, and then he wins the tournament. The last day at the end of the tournament, I'm in the players' lounge with my son and my ex-wife. So we ask him to take pictures. We take pictures with Andre. Everything is good. We go. Thank you very much. Goodbye. 12 years later, I'm in Vegas giving Nicholas a lesson at this indoor facility where I was coaching. 2 men walk out behind me and they say, hey, we've been watching your son play. We think he's pretty good. Do you think that he could come and do this commercial that we have? We're looking for young boys. I'm like, well, Nicholas, do you want to go? And he goes, yeah, Papa, I want to go. So, by the way, my kids grow up speaking German because my ex wife
Yes,
is from Austria. So
Austrian.
that's why he says Papa. And I'm so
Papa.
grateful for them
Actually,
to
it's
learn
very sweet. Papa's very sweet. I like it.
because they learn another language. That's another thing. I was blessed to travel and learn how to speak German. But
Yes.
anyway, so he says, Papa, yeah, I would like to go. So I sent him in. I didn't go. My ex-wife took him. They
Mhm.
get there. It's Andre Agassi and his wife, Steffi Graf, who are doing the commercial.
Yes.
So Niklas participated in this commercial. We already
Wow.
had a picture with Andre, so we take another picture. And then the end of
Mhm.
the commercial, thank you, goodbye. 2 weeks later, we get a check for $2,000. So we got a couple of checks in the mail worth about $10,000. Now, guess
Yeah.
what?
Mhm.
That's the money that Niklas used to pay for Harvard University
Wow. Just look at that.
because it cost him $8,000. It cost him $2,000 a year. The point I'm trying to make is go out there and do positive things. Don't sit at
Yeah.
home and cry and complain and I'm all about this stuff. So
Mhm.
the fact
Mhm.
that we went out doing positive things, we run into
Mhm.
people, a lot of us are going to help us.
Mhm.
And to me today, the story always gives me goosebumps because it's just absolutely pretty incredible. I think the coincident, two different continents. And
Amazing.
yeah, and my last step, step number nine, is basically you kind of like find specialize in something specific in terms of work about how you choose a career because it's in America this is notorious. The universities will sell you any degree as long as you're willing to pay money. They have no obligation there to guarantee you're going to get a job afterwards. So that's why. So, but also people have to take a lot of loans to go to universities, which is
Yes.
tough. Europe is a little different because you have your social system where your education is very minimal. You have to pay or free at
Mhm.
university level. But in this sense, I say that people need to actually, you need to have something that you specialize in. If the lights go out in this hotel, they're what we call an electrician who didn't probably even go to college. He specializes in that field. He's going to come and fix that. He's going to feed his family. He's going to pay his bills. He's going to have insurance. And it's the same thing with the college year. So my older son, his first year in college, the first 3 months, he was studying economics. And I said to him, hey, Nicholas, I've done a bit of research about this and I advise as a counselor the kids in school. Why don't you look into computer science? And he says, no, I want to study economics. I'm like, okay, it's just a humble opinion from your father. I can't tell you what to do. You're adult now. As a black kid, considered black in America, my kids are mixed, but they considered black.
Yes.
There's not a lot of people who look like you in computer science. And you're very good in math and science.
Mhm.
You had good grades. And your chances of success. A lot of companies in America want to balance some of their their diversity, and I do think if you take computer science, your chances of being hired are much higher.
Mhm.
No, I want to do computer science, and then at some stage, I think like a month or two, I got a text. I changed my major to computer science. Great. He specialized something. Yannick struggled with that, which I think it's fine because the young people, they don't really know if some of this stuff other than just reading. But I think it's important for people to find something that they can specialize in because long term you get to spend enough time doing it. Jeff Bezos started selling books in his garage and
Yes.
he loved it. People didn't know where his office was. He was embarrassed to tell them where his office was, but in his garage. That's where he started. But
Mhm.
he had passion for what he was doing, and he pursued it, and
Mhm.
that is how basically he ended up where he is. Um, Bill Gates started at Harvard, and I'm talking about kind of like more a lot of these liberals. Some people hate that, but these are the guys who I wrote about in my in my
That's
in
okay. I'm good with that. That's fine.
yeah, so it's these people they find something. I mean, Bill Gates started doing he programmed for his middle school, the
Mhm.
curriculum for his middle school. That's how early he started this whole thing. So
Mhm.
he specialized in something, but a lot of times you're gonna fail. Maybe try something else, but you have to be wanting to specialize in something. There's a guy that I wrote about in the book called Jeremy Wolf. He's a friend of mine. He's a tennis player. He's raised by a single mom. His mom was a nurse. Didn't like school very much. Eventually, he graduated, came to Vegas. We coached tennis next to each other. I was older, and he started a DJ company because he wasn't making enough money teaching tennis lessons. And he went to all the hotels in Vegas and said, hey, I'm Jeremy. I've got a DJ company called All Night Long. And we do XYZ, you know, with entertainment, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, every hotel was calling him about entertainment they wanted. Today, he's got 30 guys that work for him as DJs.
That's how it
And
works. Yes.
after that, he started a juicing company. It's called Press for Juice. And we always tease when we play tennis. I'm like, how's Press for Juice? And he goes, homeboy, I'm printing money. You know,
I love that.
he says, we're printing money. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But at the end of the day, the idea is that you have to specialize in something. Young people, now a lot of them, they think they're going to be influencers, which I don't even know what it means. It's okay for you, I think, to dream. It's fine. But I think if you, and I don't advocate for people to go to university. I think go to university if you're going to study computer science, medicine, law school. I think the other degrees, sociology, psychology, unless you want to get a master's degree or a PhD, it's a tough one because it's just tough. But if you specialize in something as well, I think you eliminate the competition. Yes. Which is what I thought about my, you know, my older son with Nicholas. I said, if you get this computer science, I mean, you're gonna get a job no matter where you go, but you also eliminate, which was also the reason why I went to graduate school, because I thought everybody in the middle-class family has got a BA degree. It's not special. You know, in my high school, and I talk to the kids, they're so excited they're going to graduate, finish high school. And I'm like, what are you doing after that? Oh, no, I mean, this is great. I finished high school. I kind of sit there with this blank face because I'm an African who sometimes doesn't have that humor. I'm like, you know, it's not big of a deal. It's free education. You're supposed to pass high school. You can't be bragging about high school. And like, you know, my younger son did not go to his high school graduation. We didn't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal to get an undergraduate degree in college. I think it's a big deal when you get a master's degree or you get a PhD or other stuff. And that's my stupid arrogance. So unless you get it in computer science, engineering, and all the stuff where you can, you know, but at the end of the day, those are the 9 steps that basically came about when I went and looked at Zulu Dreams, my autobiography, and thought these were the things that propelled my story to be successful.
Richman,
Did I pass the test?
that you passed the test with flying colors. Beautiful. That is those 9 steps, as you spoke. I think they're valuable because it's real. It's from a real person who's experienced your walk of life is incorporated into those steps. And I do think it has the ability to unlock because every human being has potential. It's about how you bring it out. Like you said, focus on the one thing. What's the one thing? And the whole life of being an influencer is like, I don't want to talk against it because that's the way the world has gone. But so it's from our generation, it's like, yeah, but focus on what you do. Stop copying everybody else. Be yourself. You do you. You know, and I like that. You do you in the way you are and how you've been, where you come from. None of that is lost in the story, which is important. Yes. We are all of everything we came into this world with. And we should leave empty. We should release. And that, I think, is what you're on the journey doing. It's what we're all doing. So about the high school part of your journey, the counseling, you've reached these kids and you've shared some of your life story or maybe all of it with them. What's their first response when you share the African part of it?
So this is going to actually be a disappointing answer because, you know, in America, when you talk about you're a counselor, very quickly people think you out there doing a lot of emotional intervention with the kids and all that stuff. But the sad truth is 80% of my work is in my office working on transcripts, making sure that the kids are in the right classes, they know where they're supposed to go. And 80% of my work, I'm in my office working on transcripts, making sure that the kids are in the right classes this year and the following year, and they're pursuing the specific diploma that they're going to get based on what they can achieve. So I have about 350 students, and in my school it's divided by alphabet. I have a ninth grade through 12, which is the four levels of high school. But anyway, secondly, in America, as a Black African, I think it's actually, I don't want to use the word meaningless. The story does not, this is the interesting thing that I thought when I was a kid, going to America. You think you're going to go to America as a Black person, you're going to meet a lot of Black people that look like you're going to bond and all this kind of stuff. The truth is, a lot of Black Americans don't see Black Africans as Black, as part of the same community. I mean, we are different. We speak differently. We come from different cultures, but you would think that there is an embracement that happens. So I opened my mouth in America, and people turn around and look because they realize I'm not American. So a lot of times my stuff is irrelevant, and I can't even actually explain to them about my country. I mean, the kids who come from poverty in America, they have they experience the similar hardships of poverty, like the kids in South Africa, in India, South America. The kids who come from poverty, there's a lot of similarities there. Early pregnancy, drugs, illiterate, dropping out school, high school dropouts. So my story is totally unknown in a lot of places in America. I mean, I published a book. Some people know my story, but in a school, another thing that I had with Clark County School District, until I think very recently, I'm not allowed to talk about these books because I can't sell anything for people that in Clark County School District. I can promote my book within this Clark County School District, which means the place where I actually work, where this book is written based on the experiences that I see among my kids, writing this book to empower them. I can even market the story to them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know what's happening.
So, so it's not that relevant. I mean, it's relevant to me, but this is another part I was telling you, the disconnect of being in a country where you don't feel like you belong. Because I don't feel like I belong anywhere. So as much as the story is being embraced here, I was talking about in South Africa, in America, this is just another story. And in America, if you're not on television, most of the time you're irrelevant. But it doesn't necessarily bother me because my goal is not to impress anybody in America. I feel lucky. The country, American country, has done so much for me, for my children with the education. Is the only country in the world where you can get an athletic scholarship and go to university and somebody pays for it because you can hit a tennis ball or throw a football. So I can bash this country, and I have a US citizenship, which makes it so much easier to travel because I don't need a visa to go anywhere. But at the end of the day, so my story is not that much known in America compared to here in South Africa. I do share with some of the students my story. Interesting enough, so we have the Black kids. So my school is mostly the low income kids. I think maybe, I don't know, 45% of Black kids, and then we have Hispanic kids, which are actually Mexican kids. Very often, the Mexican kids embrace my story more than the Black kids do. And I think one of the things is because one of the reasons maybe a lot of Mexican kids, their parents come from Mexico to come to search for better future in America. So they come to America, a lot of parents working two jobs. Some of them are there illegally. They don't have work permits.
Undocumented,
Yeah. So sometimes when I tell my story to them, they understand the story because there were similar tales with my story.
Yes.
Whereas the Black American kids, this is their home. Some of the opportunities that they have, they don't actually see or know because it's always been like that. This is normal to them. But also there's this idea of, you're an African a Black man. You can't be the one telling me how to, how to live my life, as an American. And you think, I mean, I've had kids say that to me. say that you don't actually. One boy said to me, I said to him, he used the N-word. I was substituting in a classroom. He used the N-word, which is very interesting. In the Black community, that word is used every day. The rapper use it in music and all the stuff. But when white people use that term, hell breaks loose, which to me makes absolutely no sense. But as an African, I don't understand it because I don't hear blacks here, calling them, the K word that the Afrikaners use here, or apartheid system, I should say. But in America, it is very prevalent. So this kid, I said to him, hey, that word is offensive. It may be fine you talking with your friends or however you rephrase it, fine. But it may be offensive to other people, it's offensive to me. And he said to me, you don't even have a right to criticize me about how I use this word because you don't even have ancestors in this country. You're not American, And I said, okay, and I said, fine, but I said, I'm, black people from here, they came from Africa. There is a direct link there somehow, through our ancestors. He's a young guy. He wasn't going to listen to me. This is one example, but there's always a lot of young black kids that listen to their parents. See my stories. I have posters of my kids in my office, or they see, oh yeah, you can see that the kid did it. He looks like you, but in a bigger scale of things, it's not what one thing is.
Yes.
I have two people at my school that I work with that told me, Mr. They call me Mr. Mahlangu because they can't say the Mahlangu.
Yes.
Mr. Mahlangu, I grew up here. We were told that black Africans hate black Americans. And I'm like, I beg your pardon. I mean, what are you doing? But this is I think the biggest thing is that a lot of Africans, us here, we did not learn about slavery, the history of slavery. So we don't know. We go these preconceived notions, see Roots, the movie, and think this is how black Africans are. This is how we all talk. So it's very interesting history. Like anywhere else, we are uneducated about the world, and we assume and treat other people with disrespect, or assume that they don't like us, or they're gonna treat us this way because our preconceived notions. So I feel very fortunate to have had an opportunity to travel and meet people and have
Yes.
what I would say acquaintances and friends around the world, but also learn the reality of
Yes.
what the world is. Because same thing again, I didn't know anything about. I didn't know Hitler was from Austria originally. I had no idea. I mean, it was an absolute shock when I first
Wow.
in Austria where I lived, a tiny little country, and you have a guy leading the German army, and all that stuff.
And
So
also,
yeah. Anyway,
wow.
the,
But the world's an interesting place in that sense. I mean, what you described, your experience of America. Uh, that's, I can see you're a very honest guy. You say it like it is. That's cool. That's very cool. And that is so important that we have to know who we are. Because if we lose ourselves, the world's that kind of place. We can lose ourselves to what other voices are saying. And as you
yeah,
say, preconceived notions. That is why we have all this distrust going on in the world. And people don't, you know, that old, well, it's become such a cliche these days. Go back to where you came from, that kind of thing. So I think, that, I don't know if we'll see in our lifetimes a complete change, but every little bit counts. I think every little bit counts. So we've gone through that, and it's beautiful. The whole discussion has just been so amazing. Tell me, what do you love about America?
um, that question is a simple question, but at the same time, I don't think I can give a simple answer because the world, the older I've gotten, the more complex the world has become
Mhm.
for the right reason and the wrong reason. So when I
Yes.
first went to America, I obviously, as I said, this preconceived notion, what I thought it was, and incredible opportunities, the entrepreneurship in America, this free enterprise
Mhm.
is cutthroat. If you have something to sell, you can convince people, you can do anything. Uh, I feel very fortunate to have lived in Europe before I went to America, because I had a basic understanding of what socialism is and what it looks like.
Mhm.
When you go to America and talk about socialism, the first thing they jump into is they think you're talking about they're talking about Russia. You're talking about communism, which to me, not even close. But based on the history of America. So when I first came, I didn't know all the ugliness of America. At the same time, there is so many good things in America that you cannot find anywhere in the world. The things about university, those opportunities. The American people among the English speakers I have found in the world are the most forgiving one. When foreigners speak terrible English, the Americans are so accommodating. They don't, they don't make a fuss or treat. In Europe, if you don't speak, I mean, so I speak pretty decent German, but you can tell because I didn't learn it in my first language and I didn't study German. You have these articles. We have masculine, feminine, and neuter in German. There's three compared to English when we have male and female. And
Yeah.
very often, foreigners like myself, these nouns, it's very easy to choose the wrong one because you heard somebody say it, you made it wrong, but there's no way to know. There's no rule when you learn it. You can say, for example, for a car, when you say der Wagen will be masculine, but you can also say das Auto, which is neuter. It's a car. The kids, they learn the language, they know that. But foreigners, if you don't get it right one time from hearing, you get it wrong, that automatically make them treat you as a second-class citizen. You
Wow.
don't have that as much with the Americans. They'll correct them in time, but it's a simple yet complex question. When I was young, America meant something totally different to me. I was fortunate to live more in a middle class. I lived with a family that was pretty wealthy. The mom ran hotels in Vegas. She became my sponsor at one time, a lady by the name of Joan Kilburn. She is fantastic. She's passed now, but she basically rescued me. I lived in a home for free. She employed me when I got out of college to get my work permits, my green card, and all that stuff. But anyway, so when I was young, what I saw about America was absolutely phenomenal, all these chances. As I got older, um, the cell phone inventions where, people can go and record this incident that happened with the police. You're living on a West Coast where you don't see these things. You being convinced that, well, he must have been doing something wrong for the police to chase him and beat him up and all that stuff. When the cell phones came into play where people can actually videotape these incidents, now you see this live where the guy has his hands up or whatever. And I'm not turning this into a political thing, just an example. He's got his
These are
hands
the
up.
truths. Yeah.
Yeah, the hands got his hands up. They got a gun. They chase somebody. He obviously runs. He's scared. And now you realize you have a guy like George Floyd getting choked in the middle of a street when the world is watching. And you think this cannot possibly be the same country where I live. But again, the reason that happens is because I was not educated. I didn't know who the hell Jim Crow was. And I've lived in America, went to undergraduate degree, got a master's degree until later. Now you learn about America is a great country in a lot of ways, yet is one of the most racist countries in the world. Because one of the reasons they had these racist laws, this was laws with slavery in place. They know how to do this stuff. Martin Luther King said, we need to grab in our boats with bootstraps and lift ourselves up. And then years later, he said, that statement might have not, I have a dream. It's a great statement, but I don't know if I think this true because realistically, a lot of people don't have straps on their boots to lift themselves up. Because, for example, when slavery ended, a lot of black people basically, they said, okay, now you can do whatever you want. They had to go back to their former slave owners for employment. They still underpaid them. But they were not given any resources, land for them to build. They would advocate, the American government would advocate for the supermarkets not to build these supermarkets in black communities. They had to be somewhere else where they can get groceries. They couldn't get loans at the banks, that type of thing. The schools where black people go based on your zip code, how much money you have. So it decides who you're going to be friends
Mm.
with, what type of a school you're going to go to. This is the ugliness that I didn't know anything about. But to put a bit of a spin on that,
Mhm.
this is the world.
Mm.
You know, we had the pandemic we complained about. It was terrible. Millions of people died. There was a
Mm.
Spanish flu. I don't know, it was 1912.
Mm.
It killed a lot of people.
Mm.
So the world is a bloody ugly place, yet it's got a lot of good things. And
Yeah.
I think the sooner we accept the fact that the world is not this flowery place that we told it is,
Mm.
the better we're gonna understand that we have a choice
Mm.
whether we're gonna be nice to people based on our own will,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
there's
That's
terrible history or not terrible
yeah.
history. We're going to be
Yeah.
kind to other people.
Mm.
But the world is an ugly place where people are going to be horrible. They're going to
Mm.
be mean. They're going to,
Mm.
you're competing with them for similar jobs, for positions in a team or whatever. I
Mhm.
actually regret one thing. When I was in college, we had a couple of guys in the team who partied all the time. They had a lot of fun, and I was always serious, you know. And to our low-income black kids, I never drank any alcohol. I'm 60. I've never drank. I've never done drugs
Mhm.
or smoke.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying this to brag or tell anybody
Yeah.
I'm better.
Yeah.
The point I was trying to make is the American teammates I had in America. You know, we know that people at 20, 19 are drinking, but you can't buy it legal until you're 21. So my teammates who were in college, you know, they got there. They partying is the first time because American kids, now you're away from the parents. You can have the booze, you can get drunk and have fun. I was so mad at them for sometimes when we had matches, they drinking beer, they, you know, they out at night partying. But because I didn't realize, I didn't understand the culture, that this is normal here.
Mm.
And I resented them. And then years later, after I've grown up and understood and my kids went to college, I realized that the fact that I was so clueless about the culture, it made me have this bad relationship with people where I wasn't so open and as friendly because I thought they were sabotaging our team. Instead of concentrating on my own tennis thing and say I have
Yeah.
a team, I should be grateful I have a tennis scholarship. Somebody's paying for my scholarship. I shouldn't care about them. I mean, not care, but it shouldn't be stressed that it strains our relationship. They have their own lives. This is their own country. And I'm a foreigner. I'm invited in this thing. I'm not even belong here. I don't have a right to even be telling them, you know, or thinking they should be, you know, going to bed at 10 or at 9:30 because we have a tennis match. So, you know, the point I'm trying to make is the life is so big, is so joyful. There's so many good things in life, yet there's so many terrible things. And we just gotta find some way to navigate through this
Yes.
life. And at the
Yes.
end of the day, when our life ends, because it will
Mm.
one day, you know, that we can say, hey, I did the best I can,
Mhm.
and I'm if I go today, I am grateful. The confusion, the last thing I want to say, the confusion about leaving home. Nowadays I have a hard time with organized religion based on of the history of the world, things I've read, I understood, and the behavior of people who still call themselves religious and all that
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
Um, I don't eat processed food because
Mhm.
I feel the companies making food, they
Mm.
don't really care about our health. It's our
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
uh, so I don't go into my mom graves and my dad because I feel they inside me the spirit, the idea of going to the grave and sit there. I
Mhm.
think it's traumatizing.
Yeah.
I think we should celebrate the life that we had with these people before they died, and after
Mm.
they died, they gone. But I think the spirit we celebrate their life instead of mourning their dead. And
Mhm.
African culture, you may know this, in the black culture, the funerals, the death thing is terrifying, and I think it traumatized people far more than the death that just happened. And I think if we can learn now to celebrate their lives,
Yes.
these experiences, I
Mm.
just think it's so much more rewarding. So
No.
you talk about a confused guy, you
Mm.
just found him. Who
We're
doesn't
all
know?
confused. Richmond, we are all confused. If we admit that, we're going to have some fun with this life. We're all confused. I constantly share that with my husband because I'm always asking a lot of questions. And I
Yeah,
always find these perplexities in life, especially with, I think I've struggled with it my whole life. And you kind of coached me here today. That's what's beautiful about this. Because
thank you.
we all, especially transitioning in 94, and we had the new South Africa, but we were thrown into new relationships. Society changed completely. Now it was a whole
Yeah,
new set of societal rules for all parties to the table, everybody.
yeah,
It didn't matter what race you were. And the thing is, if we just embrace that, we're all confused. So let's have some
yeah,
fun with it. And let's learn to not have preconceived notions of the other person. I accept
yeah,
you, you accept me for who I am. You know, we can dress it up and make it look as nice as we want, but if we're not who we are, we're going to suffer. We're going to
yeah,
suffer. So if you don't like me because I am who I am, well, too bad. I like me with all my complexities. I think that's a good way to approach life with everything in education, in like even organized religion. It has caused the world so much of problem. And the thing is, spirituality is a very personal thing. And
yeah,
it's a very real thing because you cannot be untruthful to yourself, but, just flout the whole religion thing. So the world, not just us, so many people are asking these questions, but why is it like that? Families, you look at the state of family,
yeah,
it's not what narcissism within families has become the cliche, but it's there. This is how we are living human life today, and it's okay. It's as long as we fit in and we do it, we can have a richer life if we admit our complexities, as you have
yeah.
explained. And just, I spoke to a young attorney for our 30th democracy celebration. I'll send you the link to my talk with her.
That'd be nice. Thank you.
She's another person I need to connect you with. She's a bright mind. And she's 25, a born free in SA, but she has a good sense of activism. She understands, she moves in the world with a lot of smarts. And she's one of those people who did not go straight into university from high school. She went to work in a law firm first. So that's how she
Wow.
learned. And she's one, in
Yeah.
my opinion, she's one of the best attorneys I've met. She started her own law firm at 25. And
Wow.
I have to introduce you to her. I think you'll love her mind. She's got something about her. So I asked her on the show, I'll send you a link. I said, tell me something. I can say her name, Euriska. You will meet her. I said, Euriska, tell me, are you an activist? And she says, well, Michelle, what is an activist? As long as you're a decent human being, man, as long as you're a decent human being. And this came out of a 25-year-old young lady born free. She gave me the biggest truth of my life, and that's the truth. As long as we are decent human beings, we don't
Yeah.
attack each other, we don't spend, if we don't do personal attacks on each other, the wars will stop. All of the wars, because a lot of the war is in here first. So if we don't do that personal attacking, just going after people and just accept people for who, accept everybody. They mess everything, accept people for who they are. And you can have some of the best relationships in that situation. That's my personal opinion. But I'm a very radical person, as everybody knows. I just keep it very shit the cage. I rattle the cage. So I love that I'm married to Gavin because you will meet Gavin someday. He's also like
Yeah.
me. He's sort of, he pushes the boundaries, especially when I'm asking some crazy question. Well, why is the world like that? And why should that be the narrative? Why can't we change it? Why can't we live off the wall a little bit? Like just thinking. If you think off the wall, you can create beauty in this world if you think
Yeah.
differently. And so, thank you for sharing that. And of course, I shouldn't be asking you what do you love about South Africa, although it's in your questions. I saw what you love about South Africa as I followed your Facebook journey. It's incredible. You were having a
Thank you.
blast. And I'm sure you take that with you as you go back on your journey. And I can tell that you too do not belong to this world. you're from another place.
Thank you. Can I just say one last thing based
Sure,
on your
sure.
observation? Last thing, you know, and I don't think I'm a negative person. I don't think racism would ever end. And the reason I say that is that, you know, we all come from different places with different history. We raised in different cultures. I'm not a pacifist in any way, but I do want to say that I don't think racism will ever end, because we come from different cultures, different belief systems. We raised by we follow a lot of things that from our parents, and a lot of times they continuing with how their parents raised them, and the history has got a lot to do with our behavior. You know, if you're growing up in a neighborhood where you know, most people that you grow up with are going to go to college because their parents already, they have the money, they aspire to higher education. The way you think about the world is very different from a guy like me. If you don't interact with people of certain race or certain color, you're not necessarily comfortable. You don't know anything about them because of where you live, where you grow up. And these things are not always necessarily negative. It's just how the world is. I went to Greece last year, and I'd never been to Greece. And I was waiting for a taxi. I was the first guy in the front waiting for a taxi. The guy was helping us, didn't speak a lot of English. There was a British guy behind me with his wife. The taxi comes and he goes to the British guy and he says, "Okay, you go ahead, sir." You know, and the British guy says, "No, this gentleman is in front of me." I don't know why he said that. I mean, I could jump to think that he's a racist or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I can now automatically say, you know, Greek people are racist. He's one guy. I don't know. But the fact is, the world is somehow, I think people have this idea, which I think to me is a bit off, that one day we're going to have the world where people all love each other, they're going to hug each other, they're going to accept that there's going to be no racism. You know, a couple of years back, Black people here were second class. We think now this has changed. We have gay and lesbians in a lot of countries in the world. They're still prosecuted. It's a crime. They get charged. They get killed. The world does change. A lot of things come out, but the fact that the idea that people think the world is going to be this perfect place, it's not going to happen. But what we can strive for is to be the best that we can be individually and as a community. But the fact that we're all going to embrace each other and do, I mean, again, I talk a little bit politically in South Africa. South Africans need to realize it is not realistic to have one group of people with so many different races be the only one represented in the government system. It doesn't work. We have a lot of people who have incredible amount of skills who are part of running this country. They're not involved into the development of this country. And it's not a political statement. It's my observation. I've stayed in hotels. I've stayed in hotels here before. You look at the economy, you look at the rand, the currency. We have tons of people who have the experience and the knowledge, were involved in running this country. Was part of apartheid? Yes. They don't have numbers to turn this country back to apartheid because some conspiracy theory says that. But a lot of these people don't want to raise the kids where they don't think that the kids have got a future because of our history. I get it that people are afraid and all this kind of stuff. But you need everybody contributing in this country where people are angry about our system, where they want to contribute, they want to share their ideas. Are we going to have racist people among those? Of course, yes. A lot of our people are racist. A lot of Black people in America are racist. A lot of people everywhere are racist. And the whole thing I said about religion, there's different types of religions that I've never studied, and it's okay. I don't condemn, I don't criticize because I don't know about a lot of religion. I'm just taking, for me, I don't, when we start talking about organized religion, it doesn't seem to hold up based on our son. You know, there's no religion that I've ever come across that says there was anybody who looks like me, who's got a round nose, who's black. All these religions, they differ. They don't. I'm non-existent. I'm supposed to read the Bible that never says anything about a black person. I'm supposed to read Shakespeare that doesn't say anything about the black person. The only black people we come about, they are a slave. So what I'm saying, that when I say confused, this is not slave confused in the wrong way. I'm confused in my own world of how I see the world. I love being alive. I've met a lot of great people. There's a lot of people who've been so grateful to me. But at the same time, I think it's okay for other people to be different. Of course, when they start physically attacking people, not allowing people to get jobs, that type of racism, that discrimination, that's difficult. I get it. As long as we can work in some way that there are laws to prevent those things. But how do you prevent them? There's so much we can do. People individually will have to choose whether they're going to be good people or not good people. And if they choose not to be bad people, there is nothing that you and I can do. People can sit here and say, this is bad for this party, the XYZ. They're going to vote for a different party that they were talking all smack about. That's their right. They don't need to actually even hide. They should vote for whoever they want because it's their right to vote. So at the end of the day, I'm rambling, but the point I want to make is that people should not hold other people hostile in terms of friendship or not accepting other people because they think other people belong to a different party. They have their grandparents, they former racist and all this stuff. If they don't want to be your friend, they not believe in a certain thing, it's okay for them to believe in something different. We don't have two same people. And I think this is one of the things, again, to a different subject with our relationships. You hear people say, I want to find somebody who's comparable to me. They have things that are comparable. I think it's bloody nonsense. It's, there's no two people that are the same. But if you are so different, yet you can find ways to compromise and enjoy each other's good qualities and able to tolerate their weaknesses.
Yes.
That's what makes this relationship work.
Yes,
It's not that we all gonna.
That's exactly it right there. Gavin and I have soon a 25-year marriage. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And you know what? We're so different. We're
Yeah.
so different. I eat fruit, he can't stand fruit. But things like that. But he will shop for my fruit.
Hello.
He will shop for my fruit, but don't you ever put fruit in his plate or in his food. We've never spoken about those things before we got married. I heard that he didn't eat fruit. He let me know, his mom let me know, family members told me. But I had to get married to experience this, and it was like, are you kidding me? I love fruit. But we have other differences as well, but we have commonalities. We love music. The two of us are passionate about music, and we
Yeah.
get lost in our music. We love having our crazy discussions. That keeps us going. So I think differences work in a relationship. I'm so enjoying this discussion. It's fun. It's really fun. And I'm sure people are getting it. As we share it, we'll YouTube it as well. Richmond, it was such a joy having you on this show. You have a good energy. So what brings you joy?
Oh, what brings me joy? I enjoy playing tennis. I'm not in love with the game as I was. Um, the idea of being alive, that what gives me joy? What gives me joy is to have an opportunity like I have. If I could come out and go to schools and talk to young people and empower them about um, maybe not just empower, talk about life, things that are coming their way, How could they better prepare? Learn from them, because as a counselor, I know I learn a lot of things that day. And I was talking to somebody about 2 weeks ago about this. And I was saying, so often we're so worried about the kids wanting to be an influencer. They're not working so hard on that. The reality, I think, in between is that we actually growing at a different time. They're growing at a different time than us. And we're missing the boat because we are just so focused on what we think we know. And their lives and their circumstances now is very, very different. But so often I think as parents, we need to make the adjustment. So the learning for me is exciting. They're going out and talking to people. One of the things that I'm a sucker for, when people who have accomplished something, it doesn't matter what it is, it's very fascinating to me because I kind of want to know what their brain, what makes them tick. What could I learn? Because I feel that I was so far behind. I'm still so far behind in terms of knowledge. There's just so many things that I don't know that I think if I had a better education, I would have liked to have learned. At the same time, I have two children that went to really, really good schools, which means then there is some kind of reward, even though I missed out, that they were able to to achieve those, acquire that education, achieve better things in life. What gives me joy, which sometimes is annoying to my kids, is picking them up and calling them, talking to my kids as adults now, except that I call with all this excitement and they say, what is it, Papa? What is it that you need? I'm like, no, I'm just calling. Well, you could have just texted me that. I'm like, okay, but I thought I wanted to talk. Okay, we talked yesterday or day before, and you realize it's a completely different world. Oh, I called to ask for some help with the computer. Say, Papa, did you Google this before you contacted me? I'm like, no. Well, can you please Google it so you learn how to do it? But it's just that you're just in this world now where you thought you knew a lot. All of a sudden, they grown adults where they don't actually need you. You're not needed, and all of a sudden you kind of feel kind of useless because nobody told us this stuff. You raise kids, but it's exciting in some way. It gives me joy that I don't have to worry about learning. Learn about investment. My son invests the money. They sit together and decide about, okay, Papa's gonna get these index funds, and then they call him like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but because I'm gonna die, this is your guys' money anyway, the little money. But so the joy of coming here, seeing the African people. I go down here in the elevator. I don't know these people. They look at you and say, Sawubona Baba. The gesture, Sawubona Baba Gunjan. I've never seen them before. You don't get that anywhere in the world. Maybe
That's
among their own people they do. They shake your hand. I've never, seen Gunjan Baba. And they so humble. They so, at the same time, in terms of like work, compared to some of the stuff like businesses, when you compare with the international world, we didn't need other people. I think South African companies need to invest money, send people overseas, send them to America for a month or two, go to the hotel industry, just sit there and observe. When you walk up to an employee and said, "Excuse me, I can't find my room. Where do I go?" They bloody walk you to your room. They don't stand there and say, "Well, you want to go down the 10 left," and you don't know, you get lost. They walk up. That's how they train, because in terms of business, in America, you have something to sell, you want to buy, they'll reach out to you in your house, put their hand in the pocket and take the money. I had here 4 times yesterday, the key doesn't open. I go downstairs, and I'm not complaining. I go downstairs and they restructure my key. I go back, it doesn't work. And they're gonna call the guy. And he's gonna go and get an instrument. I'm standing here, it's 10 o'clock at night. But this is the type of businesses, the business mentality that I think for South African economy needs to improve. You go to the airport, for people checking anything, the people are just standing there talking to each other, and you're standing there trying to come through customs. So
I can see the American in you.
but
I can see
you see, but this is all over the world. You go to Asia, it's a go in terms of this whole business, what importance. You tell people, okay, we're meeting at this particular time. 15 minutes later, they're not there. Because, oh yeah, no problem, I'll get there. You know, it's a different world. And I do think for our economy to improve, we need to go to get everybody involved in this economy in South Africa. So
Well,
this
thank
country
you for
improves.
saying that, for bringing that up, because there are bits and pieces that can be tweaked. And I think that's an essential part because it's not that major if you think about it. It's in terms of training and what
Yeah,
you teach people and how you teach them.
yeah.
So I think that can be worked on. And thank you for
It's a
saying
no,
that.
to me, it's a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer,
You
exactly.
have
It's
you have
like,
all these people in this country who have the experience, who have the skills, how to
yes.
run the country or how to do certain things in these sectors.
Mhm.
Why would we just let them live in one side of the country and not? I mean, to me, it makes no sense. But again, when I say that, people think we just westernized. I'm like, no, it's not just South Africa. There's a lot of other places. I think we need to be more realistic. We don't want
Realistically.
people who have skills leaving this country going
Yes.
to these well-developed countries somewhere else with those skills. They should be here. We should be bringing these people back in here and
Mhm.
get this country going. Where, I mean, having said that, I enjoy
I
coming
hear
out here.
you, but I hear you because excellence is an important part of life, every
Yeah.
aspect of it. We can be who we want to be and we can be slightly off the wall. That's how each person is anyway. But if you live a life of excellence, now your 9 points will work there and you'll achieve your dream. Because I mean that's a tried and tested and a proven point that I personally see in my own life. If you
Yeah.
do that, but it can be frustrating because the whole world is not excellent. We once showed up in New York and a very big name, um, it's like a cab company. I don't want to say the name, but I should because of what they did to us. We showed up. We paid for our trip from the airport from JFK to Manhattan, which is where we were staying. And guess what? We arrive at the airport and find the company doesn't exist anymore. And we've used them many times before.
Oh my
I'll send
God.
it to you privately on text, but I shouldn't say it here, though I should, but I'm not like that, so I won't. But, these things happen, but I hear where you're going with our South African situation, and I don't think it's a big thing to fix. We can. We have beautiful people here. We have good systems in place. We have
Yeah.
marvelous systems in place, but it's that little bit of an edge of just having excellence and believing in ourselves for that excellence and just reproducing it. It can be done. So hopefully on your next visit, nobody's going to mess with your key card.
But at the same time, at some stage when the manager was here, I said, you know what? I was tired. I came from an event. I was a bit frustrated, and I maybe raised my voice at you. I accept my apology. At the end of the day, it's just a bloody key. It's not the end of the world. But the biggest thing I think that stops us from progressing in South Africa with things going on is the fear.
Yeah.
People are allowing themselves the history of their past to determine what the future is going to be. It's done the history to go forward. There's nothing to fear. You're in position to run the damn bloody country. So let's get on with it. Let's get everybody involved and run this country like it's supposed to be. We have gold and diamonds in this country. This is a wealthy country.
Yes.
You talk about South Africa anywhere in the world, they'll tell you about the wines and the gold. It's a beautiful country. They want to come and see our animals. But
I'm
we have
literally
to,
living in the winelands as well. So I'm telling you, I see
yes,
it every day,
yes.
every
Anyway,
day.
thank you so much.
Richmond, it was wonderful speaking to you. You are
I
such
appreciate it. Thank you.
you're such a wealth of knowledge and you bring the truth to the table. And I'm sure you've touched many lives on Facebook and wherever, but we will continue to share it. You will live forever on our YouTube. Let's put it
Oh,
that
it's
you
been
will
an
live.
honor. It's been an honor. Thank you so much. And I hope
You are
I
most
answered your
welcome.
question. Thank you.
You did. I get it. I get your angst, but I also get your joy.
Yeah.
And that you have, look, as we get older, it is a bit annoying to see little things that can be tweaked and done better. It's not. But it
Yeah.
moves my own personal experiences, it moves through all spheres of society. We all need to have a check on ourselves. And I think you brought that in even with your 9 steps. thank you for just being you. It was wonderful meeting you, and I hope we can do this someday face to face.
Of
And
course,
yes, I hope we can meet each other. And it was really marvelous. And also, my deepest gratitude to Musa for
he's the
also
man.
integrating all of this. Yes, my deepest gratitude to him. And thank you very much. Let's stay in touch, and I'll share some of my contacts with you. I will send the Born Free to you, the attorney. I just
Thank
I
you.
just want to see where the conversation goes, because I think it's a wonderful, she's just got such an edge. I love her. She's a young South African. She's never experienced apartheid, but she knows about it. She can go all
Yeah.
the way back to Mahatma Gandhi. She knows her history. But she
I,
believes,
oh, by the way, I just read a couple of things about him coming here, just doing a bit of research. I didn't know a lot of his story. Unbelievable.
I will share a short documentary with you. I just did a little documentary of his granddaughter in Durban, Dr.
Yeah.
Ela Gandhi, and I'll share it. I'll share the link with you.
Wow.
Yes, I will, and I can also connect you with her, because just for the conversation, and you have a realistic approach to life, and for your book, we can move your book this way.
It will be an
So
honor. It's
yes,
unbelievable.
we will do that. But Richmond, thank you. It's
No, I
been
thank you.
amazing.
I appreciate you.
I can see you and I are that kind of people. We'll sit and talk for 4 hours if we had to. So let's stop. Let's
Thank
stop.
you.
It's been fun.
Somebody else is paying for this network.
There you go. Thank you very much. And well, first, let's end the Facebook.
It's an honor.
Yes,
I appreciate you.
it's been
Have
really
a lovely
wonderful.
evening.
Likewise, we'll keep in touch, and I'll share all my networks with you. And we'll take your book to the next level as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
God bless. Bye bye.
bye-bye.